The crisp sound of tearing paper echoed sharply through the silent, marble lobby of Aegis Private Wealth. Veronica, the firm's most arrogant senior director, smirked as she viciously ripped the $5 million check in half, letting the pieces flutter onto the scuffed sneakers of a single father wearing a paint-stained hoodie. She loudly mocked him for bringing a forged check and a messy child into her elite sanctuary. She had absolutely no idea that the quiet man gently holding his 6-year-old daughter's hand wasn't a desperate fraud. He was the silent billionaire founder who legally owned the entire financial empire. The cruel director truly believed she had just crushed a pathetic peasant. Right up until the terrified CEO sprinted out of his glass office, staring at the torn paper in absolute horror. The pristine marble floor of Aegis Private Wealth reflected the blinding light of the massive crystal chandelier hanging above. It was a sanctuary of supreme financial power, exclusively reserved for the city's absolute elite. I, Arthur Pendleton, stood quietly near the center of the grand lobby. I wore a faded gray hoodie heavily stained with bright pink paint and glitter, a direct result of my daughter's morning art project at her elementary school. My 6-year-old daughter, Lily, stood closely by my side. We did not blend in with the flawless designer suits and expensive perfumes surrounding us. Standing directly in my path was Veronica Sterling, the firm's senior wealth director. Her tailored crimson suit screamed arrogance, and her sharp eyes looked at me with undisguised disgust. To her, I was nothing but a pathetic peasant polluting her glamorous kingdom. She confidently marched toward me, her sharp heels clicking loudly against the polished marble floor. "You are completely lost, sir," Veronica stated coldly, her voice deliberately loud enough to capture the attention of the wealthy clients nearby. "This is a private wealth management firm. We do not offer charity, and we certainly do not allow unsupervised children to ruin our aesthetic. The exit is right behind you." I did not raise my voice or show any anger. I calmly reached into my worn pocket and handed her a single piece of paper. "I am here to deposit this check," I replied softly, my tone perfectly even. Veronica snatched the paper from my hand with a cruel smirk. She looked down at the crisp bank check, her eyes scanning the ink. It was a certified deposit for exactly $5 million. For a brief second, she froze, but her boundless arrogance quickly blinded her reality. "A $5 million check?" Veronica laughed loudly, a sharp, mocking sound that echoed through the quiet lobby. "You expect me to believe a pathetic beggar in a ruined sweatshirt legally obtained $5 million? This is an obvious forgery." Before I could utter a single word of protest, Veronica aggressively ripped the heavy paper in half. She tore it again, letting the torn pieces flutter down onto my scuffed sneakers. Lily squeezed my hand, terrified by the sudden violence. "Security!" Veronica shouted triumphantly, pointing a manicured finger at my chest. "Throw this delusional fraud out into the street where he belongs." She stood tall and victorious, firmly believing she had just effortlessly crushed a worthless, pathetic nobody who dared to step foot inside her pristine world. The elite crowd whispered in agreement, looking at me with absolute contempt. They were all completely blind to the truth. Veronica had no idea that she had just permanently destroyed a certified check written by the silent billionaire founder of Aegis Private Wealth. She had absolutely no idea who I truly was, but her terrifying reality was about to crash down upon her very soon. The heavy footsteps of 2 towering security guards echoed through the grand lobby as they aggressively approached me. Veronica stood with her arms crossed, a smug smile plastered across her perfectly painted face. She truly believed she had conquered a pathetic intruder. She pointed a sharp finger at my chest, ordering the guards to forcefully remove me from the elite sanctuary. I did not flinch. I did not raise my voice. I simply knelt down to the cold marble floor and began picking up the torn pieces of the certified check. Lily knelt beside me, her small hands helping me gather the ruined paper. "Do not let him take that garbage." Veronica sneered, her voice dripping with venom. "Throw it away and get him out of my sight." Before the guards could even touch my shoulder, the heavy glass doors of the executive suite swung violently open. Marcus Thorne, the chief executive officer of Aegis Private Wealth, stepped out into the lobby. His sharp eyes scanned the chaotic scene, clearly annoyed by the loud disruption in his normally quiet domain. He adjusted his expensive silk tie and marched toward us, demanding to know exactly what was happening. "Mr. Thorne," Veronica said, her tone instantly shifting to sweet submission. "I apologize for the noise. This delusional beggar tried to pass off a forged check for $5 million. I tore it up and called security to remove him." Marcus stopped walking. His face went completely pale. He looked down at the torn pieces of paper resting in my hand. Even ripped in half, the distinctive watermark and the customized corporate signature were entirely visible. It was not a forgery. It was a highly secure, verified document that only one person in the entire world possessed the authority to sign. Slowly, Marcus shifted his terrified gaze from the ruined paper up to my face. For 3 long years, I had quietly remained in the shadows, allowing Marcus to run the daily operations while I secretly funded the entire empire. He had only met me twice in private, but he knew exactly who I was. He knew the immense, terrifying power I held over his career, his wealth, and his entire future. "Arthur," Marcus whispered, his voice trembling so violently that the surrounding clients gasped in shock. Veronica laughed softly, completely misunderstanding the situation. "Do you actually know this homeless man, sir?" Marcus ignored her entirely. He fell to his knees right there on the polished marble floor, completely ignoring his expensive designer suit. He looked at me with absolute horror, sweat forming on his forehead. "Mr. Pendleton," Marcus stammered loudly, bowing his head in profound respect and absolute panic. "I am so incredibly sorry. Please, forgive us." Veronica's smug smile instantly vanished, completely replaced by sheer panic. The entire lobby froze in absolute, breathless silence. The cruel, arrogant director finally realized that she had just ruthlessly insulted the silent billionaire founder who truly owned every single thing in the entire massive building. The magnificent grand marble lobby of Aegis Private Wealth was completely paralyzed by a sudden, heavy, suffocating silence. Dozens of incredibly wealthy clients and highly elite staff members stared in absolute shock as Marcus Thorne, the powerful CEO, remained helplessly kneeling on the hard floor before me. Meanwhile, Veronica Sterling stood completely frozen, her perfectly manicured hands now trembling violently at her sides. The shredded pieces of my certified $5 million check still rested in my open palm. "Marcus, Mr. Pendleton, please. I had absolutely no idea you were visiting the branch today." I gently squeezed Lily's small hand to comfort her, then looked down at the terrified executive. "Arthur." "Stand up, Marcus. You are making a scene." Marcus quickly scrambled to his feet, repeatedly wiping the cold sweat from his pale forehead. He turned his terrified gaze toward his senior director. "Marcus. Veronica. What have you done? Do you have any idea who this man is?" Veronica opened her mouth to speak, but only a pathetic, breathless gasp escaped her painted lips. The arrogant woman who had just mocked my ruined hoodie was now visibly shrinking under the immense weight of her catastrophic mistake. "Marcus. This is Arthur Pendleton. He is the silent founder and the majority shareholder of Aegis Private Wealth. He legally owns this entire building and every single account in it." The surrounding crowd gasped loudly. The wealthy clients who had previously whispered insults about my paint-stained clothes now looked at me with profound respect and undeniable fear. Veronica took a shaky step forward, her eyes wide with desperate panic. "Veronica. Mr. Pendleton, I am so incredibly sorry. I thought it was a terrible forgery. You must understand my position." "Arthur, your position was to manage wealth, not to brutally humiliate people you deemed beneath you." I handed the torn check pieces to Marcus, who accepted them with trembling hands as if they were fragile glass. "Arthur, a true leader evaluates character, not just a tailored suit. You failed that basic test, Veronica. You looked at a father holding his daughter's hand and saw only a target for your boundless cruelty." "Veronica, please, sir. I have dedicated 10 years of my life to this prestigious firm. Do not do this to me." I did not raise my voice, nor did I show any explosive anger. True power never requires shouting. I looked directly into her terrified eyes with chilling calmness. "Arthur, Marcus, revoke her security clearance immediately. Veronica Sterling is officially terminated from Aegis Private Wealth, effective this very second. Marcus, yes, Mr. Pendleton. Instantly. 2. Veronica burst into pathetic tears, begging loudly for a second chance. However, her desperate apologies fell on deaf ears. The towering security guards who were originally called to throw me out now stepped forward rapidly to physically escort her out of the luxurious building instead. She had brutally torn my heavy paper check just moments ago, but in doing so, the cruel director had permanently and entirely destroyed her own glamorous future. The heavy, glass doors of Aegis Private Wealth swung shut, officially removing Veronica Sterling from the luxurious building forever. The grand marble lobby remained entirely silent, the wealthy clients and elite staff still paralyzed by the shocking revelation. I stood quietly in the center of the room, my worn, paint-stained hoodie standing out sharply against the pristine environment. I looked down at Lily, who was tightly clutching her crumpled drawing. She looked up at me with wide, confused eyes, not entirely understanding the immense corporate earthquake that had just occurred. Arthur, it is okay, Lily. Everything is perfectly fine now. I gently picked her up, letting her rest her head against my shoulder. I turned my attention back to Marcus Thorne, the terrified chief executive officer, who was still standing nearby, nervously wiping his sweaty palms on his expensive designer trousers. He looked at me with profound respect and lingering fear. Marcus, Mr. Pendleton, I cannot apologize enough for her horrific behavior. We will immediately implement strict new protocols regarding client interactions. Arthur, protocols are useless if the core culture is completely toxic, Marcus. I walked slowly toward the towering reception desk, the elite crowd parting for me as if I were a ghost. I placed the torn pieces of the $5 million certified check onto the polished mahogany surface. Arthur, I built this immense financial empire to manage wealth, not to cultivate arrogant monsters who judge human beings by the price tag of their clothing. Veronica was a glaring symptom of a much deeper disease within this company. Marcus, you are absolutely right, sir. How would you like us to proceed? Arthur, starting tomorrow morning, I am no longer a silent partner. I will personally oversee the restructuring of the entire Human Resources Department. Any employee who displays even a fraction of that sickening elitism will be instantly terminated, regardless of their financial performance. Marcus, yes, Mr. Pendleton, it will be done exactly as you command. I looked around the grand, silent lobby, making sure every single wealthy client and elite staff member heard my next words clearly. Arthur, true wealth is not defined by a tailored suit, an expensive watch, or a massive bank account. True wealth is defined entirely by how you treat the most vulnerable people in the room when you believe you hold all the power. The powerful, wealthy individuals in the room collectively lowered their heads in deep shame and silent agreement. I adjusted Lily in my arms, offering a small, reassuring smile to the terrified receptionist standing behind the desk. I turned my back on the glittering crystal chandelier and walked calmly out of the luxurious building, stepping directly into the bright, warm morning sunlight to start a brand new, highly successful chapter of my life. The incredibly cruel, arrogant director had foolishly tried to completely erase a desperate single father today. But instead, she had permanently awakened the powerful, silent billionaire who truly owned her entire world. The terrible storm was now finally over. The crisp morning sun illuminated the towering glass exterior of Aegis Private Wealth. 1 week had officially passed since the catastrophic events in the grand marble lobby. The toxic atmosphere that once poisoned the elite financial firm was completely gone. I, Arthur Pendleton, sat quietly behind the massive mahogany desk in the executive suite. I was no longer wearing my worn, paint-stained hoodie. Instead, I wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, finally embracing the immense power I possessed. Lily was sitting happily on a plush leather sofa nearby, drawing a bright new picture with her favorite crayons. Marcus Thorne, the chief executive officer, knocked gently before entering the room. He carried a thick stack of finalized HR restructuring documents. "Good morning, Mr. Pendleton," Marcus said, bowing his head in profound respect. "The entire culture shift has been successfully implemented. The staff is responding incredibly well to the new empathy protocols. Good, I replied calmly, signing the top document. And what is the current status of our former senior director? Marcus adjusted his glasses, a faint hint of satisfaction in his voice. Veronica Sterling is entirely blacklisted from the financial sector. Without a positive reference from Aegis, no reputable firm will ever hire her. She was recently evicted from her luxury downtown penthouse due to severe financial delinquency. She is currently working as a junior receptionist at a struggling, low-tier used car dealership on the outskirts of the city. A quiet, peaceful smile touched my lips. She had brutally judged a father based solely on his appearance. And now she was forced to start completely over from the absolute bottom. Let that be a permanent lesson for this entire company, Marcus, I stated firmly, looking out the expansive window at the bustling city below. Arrogance is a massive liability. True wealth requires genuine humility. Absolutely, sir, Marcus agreed, taking the signed documents. We have also established the Lily Pendleton Foundation, dedicated strictly to funding local elementary school art programs, just as you requested. I looked over at my beautiful daughter, feeling an overwhelming sense of profound joy. The cruel, superficial director had foolishly tried to completely erase us, but her boundless cruelty had only forced me to step out of the shadows. I had successfully transformed a toxic, elitist environment into a powerful force for genuine good. The silent billionaire was finally awake, and Aegis Private Wealth would never be the same again. This firm will now always strictly prioritize absolute respect over superficial appearances. We will thoroughly protect vulnerable individuals from corporate bullies. Veronica Sterling ultimately learned the hardest way possible that true power never needs to shout or humiliate others. It moves quietly and acts with undeniable, devastating precision. Lily finished coloring her beautiful drawing and ran over, proudly handing it to me. It was a vibrant picture of our bright future. Everything was finally exactly as it should be. Justice was successfully served, and our peaceful, happy legacy had officially and beautifully just begun right now today. Forever. Narration. 15 years had passed since that unforgettable morning in the grand marble lobby. Aegis Private Wealth was completely transformed under my careful guidance. It was no longer a toxic playground for the incredibly arrogant elite, but a thriving sanctuary of genuine financial wisdom and profound human respect. The crisp morning sun cast a brilliant golden glow across the meticulously polished floors, warming the magnificent space. I, Arthur Pendleton, stood near the massive arched windows of the executive suite, proudly wearing my tailored charcoal suit. I looked down at the bustling lobby, watching the newest class of eager financial analysts arrive for their first day. Among them was my beautiful daughter, Lily. She was now a brilliant young woman ready to begin her own extraordinary journey from the absolute bottom. Arthur. Marcus. Is she fully processed? Narration. Marcus Thorne, my loyal chief executive officer, stood beside me. His hair was completely gray now, but his sharp eyes shone with profound respect. Marcus. Yes, Mr. Pendleton. Lily requested zero special treatment. She is starting as a junior clerk, just as you instructed. Arthur. Good. True power must be earned, never simply inherited. Narration. I looked at the framed photograph on my massive mahogany desk. It was Lily's childhood drawing, the exact one she had clutched on that terrible day. Over the years, the bitter memories of Veronica Sterling had completely faded into nothingness. The cruel director had vanished into absolute obscurity, entirely forgotten by the glamorous corporate world she once worshipped. Her dark shadow could no longer reach the vibrant, beautiful empire I had successfully built. I slowly walked out of my office and descended the grand staircase to greet the new employees. The busy receptionist stood up, and the entire lobby fell into a respectful, peaceful silence. Lily looked at me with bright, determined eyes. Arthur. Welcome to Aegis Private Wealth. Always remember our absolute core philosophy. We never judge anyone by their temporary title, their worn clothing, or their superficial appearance. True wealth is defined entirely by genuine empathy. Lily. We will make you proud, sir. We will always protect the vulnerable. He will make you proud, sir, make you. We will always protect the vulnerable. Narration. Lily smiled confidently, blending seamlessly into the dedicated staff. I watched her walk toward the service corridors, feeling an overwhelming sense of absolute peace settling deep within my completely healed heart. The arrogant monster who tried to crush us had unexpectedly forged me into an unstoppable, compassionate leader. My secret strategy had worked flawlessly, protecting my precious legacy while exposing toxic greed. That pathetic woman was completely gone, but the powerful billionaire she foolishly underestimated was permanently here to proudly stay. Our extraordinary story was now completely and beautifully finished today. I slowly looked out the massive window one last time, watching the city awaken to a brighter future. Aegis Private Wealth would forever stand as a towering monument to absolute justice and unwavering human kindness. The long, agonizing storm was finally over, and our perfect, incredibly peaceful legacy had officially begun right now today, forever. If you believe that true wealth is measured by kindness, not a price tag, hit that subscribe button for more inspiring stories. Like and share to spread the message.